All right. We are back at the College Recruiting Boot Camp at the LinkedIn headquarters in beautiful Mountain View, California. I'm Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter, for those who just joined us either here in the room or live streamed. We have a little over 100 people in the room, all seated at beautiful little pods. The networking is great. It was fantastic to see. I think that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we had from last year's event, is that people wanted more time and more opportunities to network. And the configuration of the tables was LinkedIn's idea. It was a good idea. That's how you know it didn't come from me. Speaking of LinkedIn, how many folks go to Talent Connect? Okay, you get these books, you get a heck of a lot more. It is without a question one of the best conferences that you can go to. And there are definitely some people from LinkedIn in the room who would be happy to talk with you about the value proposition of going to it. We've gone to it in the last couple of years, and it's just a fantastic learning experience, and they also make it fun. What a shock. So next up on the agenda is Lena Evans from CBS Interactive, just down the road. And she is the Senior Director of Global Talent Acquisition. And before that, you were at Visa, right? So if you had an issue with your credit card statement, she personally actually typed every statement, and if so, you're going to want to talk to her about any chargeback issues that may be unresolved. And Lena is going to be talking about an issue that is near and dear to our hearts. Our partners, LinkedIn, I know also feel very much about the same ways, the candidate experience. There's been a lot of talk about it over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, that took way too long for there to be a lot of talk about it. But I think that most organizations now understand that providing your candidates with a positive candidate experience is not just the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do financially for your business. So if you've got chief level people who are saying, yeah, screw them, they're just candidates, they're a dime a dozen, what do we care about the ATS kicking people out? Lena's going to talk about not only why that's the wrong thing to do morally, but also from a business standpoint. So, Lena, take it away.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you. What an awesome room. And to the 3,000 people watching, tweeting, Instagramming, doing all kinds of really cool stuff, welcome. Thanks so much for the time to talk to all of you today about candidate experience and why it's important to CBS and CBS Interactive. And more importantly, you know, why candidates through the whole recruiting process, whether you're thinking about the professional recruiting or the college recruiting arena, why that experience really lends to brand reputation, employer value proposition, and the referral system. So this all links in ultimately to making sure you have the best brand reputation out there at the different colleges and campuses you're visiting, and that then lends into a great candidate experience on site, which ultimately means happy, amazing rockstar candidates that are getting your product out there to millions and millions of people. So I want to start with why the candidate experience is important to us at CBS, and I have a little video which I wanted to share with all of you. No video?
No, there is.
Perfect.
Mr. Goodman? What makes you think you're qualified for this job?
Oh! Ah! Stop punching me!
Stop punching
Please,
me.
sir, no! Oh! Don't throw me!
No, not that fish.
Don't touch me! Keep your hands off of me! Ah! Don't throw me out!
Thanks.
Here it is, huh? Get it?
Get in the groove, it's easy. Just let your body move. I'm a love guru, your mother won't.
So in the spirit of the whole TED Talk theme here, I thought I'll share something. You obviously don't have that kind of an impactful candidate experience. I hope not, but if you do, well, okay. So CBS Corporate brings entertainment. It brings an experience to millions and millions of people every day, whether you're still going home and turning on the telly or whether you have, watching CBS through your smartphone. It's the most, watched TV network. We bring an experience through news, through your favorite TV show, through your favorite sporting event. So that being the case, it would only make sense for the candidate experience to also be super important to us. Our candidates, whether you're coming through the different colleges or whether you're a professional candidate, you're our customer at some point in the life cycle. And therefore, every candidate to us is a customer or potential customer, and every customer or consumer at some point becomes a candidate. So for us at CBSI, we paused for a moment and said, what is the experience we want to create? What is the sort of the brand that we want to put out there when we go to visit all these different universities? Our campus recruiting team is small, but we'd like to think we're small but powerful. We don't do the scale and depth and breadth of maybe some of the other big brand names here today where we hire 1,000 people. At the same time, we want to make sure that when we are on site, when candidates are at our different locations, at our studios, at our different offices around the US, that they have a very consistent, a very warm, a very special experience, which they can then take back with them and talk to the legions of their followers via the social Twitter atmosphere and talk about really what it is that they experience at CBSI. So a positive experience. What does a positive experience do for your brand? It creates brand evangelists. When you have your different interns coming on site and they've had a great positive experience from the very first conversation they've had at a recruiting event, either on site or whether they've come to your physical location to interview for the different roles. If you are able to create a streamlined, very personalized experience for each individual and not make them feel that they're one of 1,000 people that's interviewing for your job because you're the coolest, hottest brand out there right now that's hiring. If you can make it personalized and make it about them, then you are creating a very special relationship with the 100, 200, 300 people that you're reaching through the candidate, through the internship experience. We all know that candidates that have a very positive experience are very likely going to accept the offer. It alludes back to the employer value proposition. What's the employer value proposition? How is your brand resonating with all of these different people that are entering for the 500, 1,000, or even 50 internships that you're offering this year? Candidates become brand ambassadors. I know we spend a lot of time talking to our marketing departments, going around the business asking for money to create all of these different programs, employer branding programs. One of the best ways to create a really strong, powerful employment brand is through your internship population. Simple things like having the right swag, having the right kind of branding that they can take back to the different universities and display, having different sort of campaigns, whether you're doing a hackathon, whether you're doing a flip phone type of video where they go and bring back certain content and data and getting your brand out there, they become brand ambassadors for you. All of a sudden, you've touched 1,000 new people through one, particular, campaign, and they're talking to perhaps 10,000 other people through their networks, through creating a really strong social footprint about your brand. On the flip side, if you have if the candidate goes through a negative experience, we all know that the internet has a very, very long memory. They will tweet about it. They will Facebook it. They will use every other app and every other social utility tool available to tell you how horrible the experience was. So all of that money you spent on brand building and your great, awesome employer value proposition, down the tube, pretty much. We don't want that. We don't want disgruntled candidates. We don't want potential rock stars to be going and saying, I really had a bad experience. The recruiter didn't get back to me on time. They met with us. They made it sound like, I would never get an internship there. It felt uncomfortable. You want to make sure that there is very clear communication throughout the process. You want to set the right expectations. You want to be career counselor. You want to be pretty much play different roles, but ultimately make sure that they don't walk away with a negative experience. Obviously, if they have a negative experience, they're less likely to accept an offer. Yes, there are a lot of companies out there looking for the best talent. Everyone wants to hire from the best universities. Everyone wants to hire the top 2%, understandable. But interns have choices. They have choices. They can go to any number of companies. Some choose to go to the big brand names because of the experience, because their code can get to 600 million people, and some don't. Some prefer a smaller brand. So it's very important that you think about what they're walking away with in terms of experience. When you do have a negative experience, when your candidates or interns have had a negative experience, you need to go back to rebuilding the brand, not just with that particular university or with that particular group of interns, but you have to pretty much go back and rebuild your brand. As I said earlier, the internet has a really, really, really long memory, and you think you might have erased a lot of the videos and or comments. Not really. It actually lives somewhere. Sorry, am I supposed to move the slides? Okay. So what does a good intern candidate experience look like? We keep it simple, but we also keep it sort of personalized. Make it about them. Everyone's different. Don't treat all engineering interns in one bucket and say, these are the 5 things they want. Yes, there are some data points that you can follow, but really, really focus on make it about them. Everyone's different. A lot of interns have a lot of questions about where they want to take their career. You can provide that conversation and dialogue around how can we help you with your career decisions. How is the internship program here different? What are we doing to help you choose the right career path? So whether it be asking them the right questions, helping them navigate to make sure they're choosing the right internship, make it about them. Focus on them, center it on them, make it about them. Might sound very simple, but when you have a very large-scale intern recruiting program, sometimes you forget what the core is because you get so wrapped up in all the bells and whistles that you forget to ask yourself, what is this about? It's about bringing in some really, really awesome people and aligning them with the type of internship that helps accelerate their career, and hopefully they'll come back to us because we've provided a great experience. Communication. We still use those phones, by the way. We've got all of them at the CBS studios. So we, from the very early sort of time we step on site to the campus, all of our intern recruiting managers, our hiring managers, they all are told how to communicate with the candidate, literally how to communicate, what to ask, what to say, how to guide, how to provide perspective, how to provide the right kind of content. We make sure that every step of the way we follow through. We set the right expectations. Many a time, once you go on campus and you come back, they don't hear from you for 3 weeks. They don't know what's happened. In the meantime, they've gone to talked to 6 other potential employers. So it's very important that you have a very simple, don't have a Visio flowchart, too complicated, but a very simple plan around how you want to communicate, what you want to say, when you want to say it, and what's really impactful for them. Technology, use technology. It's great to see people of very different groups here. Everyone communicates differently. Everyone uses technology differently. If the audience that you're talking to, the intern audience that you're talking to prefers one mode of communication using technology versus another, do that. A lot of people these days don't pick up the phone and have a conversation. If they prefer a different mode of communication, then use that. Use technology also to make the process very simple. The Internship Discovery Program. collegerecruiter.com and other sites. Figure out where they are going to actually socialize, and maybe that can be a point where they can discover your opportunities. Take your content to them using the mediums that they are used to versus getting them to understand and now change behavior to use your platform which you've created. So figure out how technology is going to really enable you and your internship program, and where it is that all of these interns are congregating online, and whether it might be an online mashup party, who knows. But figure that piece out, because I think that'll really help you attract and acquire the right kind of interns. All right, I'm getting the hang of this. So let's talk. Our internship program at CBS is, we're learning as we're going along. We're sort of working through some of the good things and places that we can improve. But also, one of the things that we are starting this year is doing a lot more surveys with the interns that are coming in this year, but also with the hiring managers. We're doing a lot of sort of spot checks throughout the whole internship program to make sure that the program that we are offering is the right program for each group that's coming in, but also making sure that the interns have the opportunity to give us feedback, not just through the one-on-ones that they have with the different supervisors or teams, but more of a collective community forum where we can sit and talk about each other's experience and really collect that data point, so next year we can really learn from them what they experience, but more importantly, what they would like to see different. So I think that's a really valid data point. Again, I think we all forget sometimes to go to the source and ask the source, hey, how was your experience? What are the 3 things you'd like to change? So we keep it simple. We focus on each individual as much as we can. It's harder to do when you're talking, massive numbers. But even if you're looking at, bringing on board 1,000 interns, or if it's just 100, there's a way that you can customize it. There's different strategies you can put into place to make sure they feel that, they are special. And I wanted to sort of just open it up to have a dialogue with you about questions you might have, or just a dialogue around experience in general, and perhaps we all learn from each other. So thank you. Okay, no questions.
You're not getting off that easy.
No?
No, they're questions. Yes, ma'am. Do you want to grab a... Thanks.
Hello, thank you so much for presenting. I know no one's done this so far, but I'm going to introduce myself. My name's Ariel Brown, and I'm coming from Nike. One of the things I wanted to ask you, with candidate experience, you find when you do have larger programs kind of using more digital platforms to kind of create that experience. Are you guys doing that at CBS? And then what are some of the challenges that you're running into? Are you seeing that with certain pipelines or demographics it works well? And what are some of the things that you're doing to kind of make that experience a little bit more digital?
Ariel, thank you. Great question. I think when I was talking about technology, I was really sort of alluding to that. We're not at a very sophisticated level personally at CBS around using various sort of different types of digital, but what we are using is trying to figure out where it is that the candidates are going to, the discovery phase. We're really focusing on that first. How do we make sure that the different opportunities in our brand speaks to these people using the different digital methods available, whether it be partnering with College Recruiter or other sort of places where candidates would go. So that's one medium by which we're using. The second is we're really trying to understand where are they going, what are they doing, what are the online sort of communities and or digital forums, platforms that they're using all the time. How can we use that? So that's what we've started to do. The data around how successful it'll be, I'll probably be able to tell you next year. We're sort of still in some of the early stages as we're sort of, fine-tuning, course-correcting, and refining, what really the whole digital strategy is. Just like most marketing departments are still trying to figure out what's the right, digital platform. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. We've got a man running up behind you. Don't be concerned.
Jumping over cords.
Hi, I'm Rachel McIntyre, and I'm with Tipco. The question I have is not necessarily to you, but to the room. We think about social media, and I'm sure there are many of the companies here like LinkedIn that utilize it all the time. But then when we talk about smaller companies that are maybe just getting into the university program, my curiosity from you is, what are the one or two social mediums do you think are best to get started with for a social media program?
Does anyone in the room want to share?
Hi, I'm Amy Beth Quinn. I work for Concur Technologies. One of the ones that our hiring managers actually use is Meetup, because they can combine both social and in-person, and some of our hiring managers actually speak at some of the local meetups. It's meetup.com.
Josh from College Recruiter. I know one thing that I know one of the other attendees in the house here, Jessica Miller-Merrill, and I do is tweet chats. We use Twitter-based conversations with moderated questions on a set time on a weekly basis. There's one called Intern Pro, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Central, and then Job Hunt Chat is Monday nights, 9 p.m. Central. So these can be ways to throw out or pre-schedule content to engage candidates both on the intern, recent grads, and even post. You never know who you might get. So those are great ways to, not only post through your handle, but also put personality behind your own recruiters.
And Josh, you take guests on that show, right?
We do.
Okay.
We have recruiters.
It's not a College Recruiter venture. Josh has been doing this for long before he worked with us, and like Intern Pro, and there are a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a bunch. You can do a search anytime and find these tweet chats. I know NACE 14 is coming up down in San Antonio, so you can use different NACE chats to interact with other recruiters and candidates. So definitely use those tools. Obviously, groups, our good friends at LinkedIn, those different tools can be great ways to engage and interact with candidates across the spectrum.
Yeah, Josh, I was going to go ahead and add that I'd recommend using LinkedIn. There are not only 39 million students on LinkedIn, but it's actually our fastest growing cohort, and it's friendly in the sense that students and parents can coexist. It's the only social network where that actually exists.
yeah.
Thank you.
Grandparents too. I've seen
Rob,
grandparents there.
Rob, one of the ways that I've heard that employers and just any other interested group can use LinkedIn really well is to create a group. And it doesn't have to be, XYZ Corp recruiting, right? If you are recruiting chemical engineers, start a group about chemical engineering recruiting in Tallahassee or wherever you're located, and just be there to help.
Indeed, Stephen, groups. And one of the things that strikes me is what my friend Lori was saying with ADP with regard to studies for purposes of tracking this information. We got a friend of mine that works at TripAdvisor. He's constantly competing with Google and even LinkedIn and Box and all these companies. So what he does is when he doesn't get the people or the people that don't go to those companies, whether he gets them or not, he uses groups and LinkedIn as a way to track them. Think about, Lori, LinkedIn as the panacea for longitudinal studies or surveys. If you can get students, for example, your interns for this summer, into a group, British Petroleum, BP does this all around the world. They get them into groups, Summer Interns 2014. Then no matter where they go, you actually have a filtered list, an instant survey to where they end up going forward. And secondarily, groups are actually, students in groups are one of the most extremely active cohorts that engage in groups. So it's a wonderful recommendation across the board.
I was just going to round out, this is Jessica, I was just going to round out the social media kind of trifecta and go back to Facebook. I've had a lot of great success with Facebook groups where I create a group just for a certain type of candidate that I'm hiring for. There's a really good group, it's not my group, but it's social media jobs. So there are several thousand people in there. So anytime you have a social media opening, just post in there. I like to be the keeper of my own groups because then I can, decide who gets preference, what's featured, things like that. And lastly, I'll just say that Geico has done like recruiter open houses on their Facebook fan page, and they've made several hires for $0. And it's just my friend Shannon being available on Facebook for 6 hours, and then different recruiters taking shifts and answering questions. Super easy.
Yeah, excellent suggestions. And Amy Beth this afternoon is going to be rounding out the day with a panel discussion on MacGyver sourcing techniques, which is basically kind of doing really cool things for free. Paper clips, chewing gum, and broken glass, right? Speaking of panel discussions, and then we're going to transition to the next presenter. This afternoon, for those of us who are here, the format's going to be quite different. We're going to have 40-minute panel discussions. And we did it deliberately. We've done this a couple of times before. It worked brilliantly. We'll see if the third time is also a charm. But we are going to pull for each discussion 3 or 4 of the attendees out who want to come up and grab a chair at the front of the room and share their thoughts. You don't get paid. You will be thanked if you contribute well. So just have a look at the agenda, see if there's a topic there that you would like to share your thoughts, questions, things you've done. You don't have to be a subject matter expert, but just exactly these sorts of, pieces, tips and whatever, if you have a couple of those to contribute. What I would encourage you to do is find the person who is leading that discussion, go up to them and say, you need me. And otherwise, I will volunteer some people, and I'll make life very, very miserable for you.